Good morning and welcome to Moments with Melinda. I am your host, Melinda Moulton, and today I have with me CJ Spirito. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Melinda. Thank you.
Now, let me tell my viewers a little bit about you. CJ is the head of school at the Rock Point School, and you've been there for a long, long time. And I want to thank you for being on my show because, Rock Point School and you have a lot of history
hmm
together. And
hmm
so I wanted to share with my viewers because I think a lot of them probably don't know much about you or Rock Point. And so I'm going to start at the beginning, if that's okay with you, CJ.
That'd be wonderful, Melinda.
All right. So share with my viewers a bit about your childhood and who had the greatest impact on your choice to become an educator.
That's a great question. So I grew up in Hingham, Massachusetts, the second of five kids, and I had a lot of wonderful instructors, teachers over my life. I went to St. Michael's College directly from high school, came to Vermont. I think that the the person that had the most impact was Mr. Higgins, who was an English teacher in high school, but also he did theater, and he encouraged me to push myself in ways I wasn't comfortable doing, and ended up being fine and learned a lot about myself. And I thought, there's something going on here. I think I'd like to try and explore this. And I knew I wanted to work with people. I didn't know education right away, but when I left St. Mike's, Rock Point came to my into my onto my radar, and quickly learned this is a place I wanted to be.
That's amazing. So you really came to St. Mike's from Massachusetts to do your undergrad work, and then you never left.
That's right. That's right.
So right after college, did you get your job at Rock Point?
I did. I was looking at some different places. Eckerd Wilderness Family in New Hampshire. I had a final interview with them, and I bumped into the then assistant headmaster of Rock Point School, and he said, "Oh, you should come and apply to Rock Point because we take care of our folks, and we'll have you for a long time." I'm like, what does that mean? I was 22, and so I applied and started as a dorm staff, and I've had many hats since then, and love this place. Very committed to Rock Point.
Well, that was my next question. So I said I was going to ask you you've devoted most of your adult life to the Rock Point School, and you started your work there 35 years ago.
hmm
What brought you there was you ran into the assistant headmaster who said, "Hey, you should apply at Rock Point. Come on
Yeah,
over." And
yeah.
you did, and you got the job.
Yep. Well, and a little before that, when I was a senior at St. Mike's, my girlfriend at the time was working at Rock Point as a dorm staff. And so I'd come over and I'd shoot hoops with the kids and volunteer and do some crafts and whatnot. So that's how I knew the assistant head. And so that was a pull too. And um, she stayed working another year after I worked there. And then she went to get her master's in marriage and family therapy and has been a counselor for years. But I just fell in love with the community here and have stayed.
That's wild. Well, we're really glad that you did,
Me too.
We're
Yeah,
really
thank you.
glad that you did. Now, for my viewers, Rock Point's website is rockpointschool.org. And I encourage all of my viewers to visit that website because it has a lot of great information.
Mhm.
So tell us real briefly, or in your words, encapsulate what is Rock Point School? Who are they?
Rock Point School is an amazing community of educators who care deeply about students and their families. We are 9th through 12th grade. Very rarely we'll have a PG student, someone who's finished high school but could use another year of structure before moving beyond. But mostly 9th through 12th, 30 students, 25 boarding, 5 day. They're students that ask why. They don't walk to the straight line. They have their own drummer and they explore. They've also been on the fringe. They have had a whole host of challenges. Could be low self-esteem. It could be a learning difference. It could be have had experience with suicidal ideation. It could be trauma from early childhood. It could be high functioning autism. There's something that's derailed them and have them feeling like they are on the periphery and don't have value in their life. And what we do here is we help them see their strengths, their voice, hear their voice, and help them be able to speak that more confidently and be able to connect and play with other people and work collaboratively. And that's why I'm here, because the families are in a tender place when they arrive, and when they leave, they're in a much stronger place and very grateful. And the students are on their journey, and the trajectory is going different ways, but they come here and they say this place has changed their life. Sometimes they've said it saved their life, and I feel like coming to work every day is meaningful in that way. And my staff are top notch. They are the heart of the school.
Have you seen the student human, the students change in 35 years, the way that they think or the way that they look at school? Because you've been there for 35 years and you started when you were 22.
That's right.
And so you've seen the iteration of sort of human development with students over these 35 years. Have you seen it change in the way that they look at education or the way that they look at studying or their work, or how have they changed?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of changes, and I wanted to say that um, there's a spectrum of students out there, and if this was the field of education, and on this side is you know, high school feeders, like going to high level colleges and going off to be doctors and lawyers and whatnot, and over here is hospitalization, kids that need real treatment. In the middle, we're on this side. We're on the education first, with therapeutic support second. But we, so my the kids I'm going to talk about are in this part of the spectrum of students, and within there, I've still seen change. I think back when I started in 1990, our students were more outwardly expressive. They would kind of get in more trouble, and they would push the envelope. And I've seen over time more inward self-doubt, fear, anxiety, and they value relationship. They've always valued relationships, but these are much more. It's much more, how can I connect and be in the world in a meaningful way, less about the academics, because they're not feeling a purpose or a sense of feeding their soul, and that has definitely shifted more and more.
Do you think they're not being heard, that they're being heard less now than 35 years ago?
I think so. And I think that there's, as humans, we all have doubts and questions. And am I worthy? What's my voice in there? I think that the world is so noisy now that their heads are populated with negative voices. You're too fat, you're too thin, you're not enough. You can't be worthy. You can't be who you are. Whoever you are is not okay. And I think they're searching for some grounded. They're groundless. Many of them are groundless, and looking for something to solidify and to be stand on.
And to see their light.
Yeah.
So you talk about all young people yearning to become their best selves.
Hmm.
How does Rock Point School help students achieve their best selves?
Yeah, I think we start by seeing them, witnessing who they are, and reflecting back to them who we're seeing. And that sometimes can be disjointed because they don't see that themselves. But we start with witnessing where they're at and what we're engaged with and what we're seeing. And then we're openly exploring with them and sharing that we're works in progress too. Where do they want to go? How do they want to be in the world? If there's an interaction and there's a conflict, which there's many, and it's all learning opportunities, how can we take this to learn how you want to be in the world? How do you want to, what opportunities are here for you to step forward in your life? And we do it hands-on, and we do direct, explicit instruction around that.
So you must really get to know these students. How many students do you have in one year?
Well,
And
30 students
30
come,
students come,
ninth through 12th grade. Yep.
and 9 through 12. And how many of them are boarders?
25 will be boarding, plus or minus, but that's about an average.
Okay, well, it's fascinating. So talk to us about the overthrust at Rock Point. That's mentioned quite a bit in a little bit in your website. What is the overthrust?
Sure. So Rock Point School is located on the Rock Point property in Burlington, which is owned by the Episcopal Church. We're not a religious school. We're our own 501c3 independent school, but we're under the auspices of the church. And there's this amazing property, and folks haven't gotten there. I hope that you come and walk the trails. It's open to the public, sunrise, sunset. And in that, out on the point, there's a space where you can see where the plates have collided millions of years ago, and the older rock is on top of the younger rock, and it's a rare sighting of that. I believe it's the only place in North America above water where people can see that. And folks from geologists from other schools come and look at it all the time. And we like to bring our students out on walks regularly at, 4 days a week and hopefully more. But we share the nature and the beauty of what's there. And that's a very particular, special place. And I think that students tie into that as I am rare and special too. I can, that I can see and I can connect that way.
Well, isn't it sort of interesting that the older rock is over the younger rock, which sort of shows the arms around the young that Rock Point provides for these
Mhm.
students too. I mean, it's sort of the symbolism is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's
so
right.
my viewers can come and walk the property. I mean, you said it's
Yep, yep. There's I think 6 spots that are open to public on the land. Come park there and you walk the trails, sunrise, sunset, and it's striking. It's a place to hear the quiet and notice nature, and I
well,
think you'll be stirred if you come.
next time I visit you, I want you to take me there.
I would love that.
I
That'd be
don't think I
great.
saw it. I mean, I'd love to, grab a sandwich and go sit there and watch the sunset with you. And to my viewers, is Rock Point is you go by the old, well, the new now, the Burlington High School, and you just keep going on that road, and that's where it is, right?
Yeah, if you go North Avenue North in Burlington, and you see there's the playing fields, you turn left on what's Institute Road, go down towards North Beach, past the school being constructed, the Burlington High School
Right.
School.
Right.
There's a road just after that on the right. You come on up. The school is the big stone building on the left, and then you'll go down further, and the parking space will be on your right. When you come in, you see the stone building. The stones that the building are made of were quarried on the property just behind the house where I live, and there was an institute down the road, which is why Institute Road is called that. It used to go all the way down to the back of Rock Point, and that's building was arsoned in 1979, maybe, and they shoved a bunch of the rocks that were left over into the woods. Fast forward, nearly 50 years, and there was some money raised to shore up the trails on the point, and so they brought in these flat stones for the stairs, but they found these old rocks that were also quarried on the property, and now they're the sides of the stairs. And I just love that repurposing, reconnecting with the history, and you'll feel it when you come out to walk.
I read about the arson,
Mm-hmm.
but the building that you're in, and I know that's a question I've got, but let me move into this first. So, uh, we talked about overthrust, and then we have we discussed the students and that they feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or maybe unmotivated. So we've talked about you serving this population. So now we're talking about the remarkable building.
Yeah.
That fire happened, but the building you're in, that's an old building, right? It's
Yeah,
pretty old.
separate building. Yeah, so there's 2 parts. One part was built in 1887, and the new, well, not so new anymore, academic wing was built in I think 66. But that building was built as a school, um, and it was started in 1887. It closed in 1920, and then we're at Rock Point School 2.0. It started in 1928, so we're heading towards our centennial in a few
I
years.
know I'm going to talk about it, but 1887, I mean, that's Rock Point School's been around since 1887.
That's right. That's right.
That's extraordinary. I mean, so was their focus then what it is now, or was it different? Was it both genders, or what was it like back in 1887 when it opened?
My understanding, it was more of a finishing school for girls at that time. And then that had sunrise and sunset and that purpose. And then going into the Great Depression, a small group of Episcopalians banded together and had the school reopen in 1928 as a homesteading school, a place for girls that their families couldn't take care of them because they just didn't have the means to support them. And so they would farm and jar and learn skills to survive. And they packed the girls into the old building, and then the headmistress at the time, she was there for nearly 40 years, but she quickly said these kids need an education and had a curriculum. And so they were educated into their high school curriculum. 1972 became co-ed. 19 late 80s when we're at a crossroads to decide who were we working with and bent towards who we are now. So right when I was starting was when the new decision of how serving the kids we are now.
That's extraordinary that the school took in girls, young girls whose parents couldn't care for them and taught them to be productive and be able to support themselves.
There's a fellow here from a heating company that takes care of our building, and he said, "Can you find anything about my grandmother? She and her six sisters all went here in the 40s, and it was that thing where it was a safe haven in a different way than it is now, but it was still a safe haven for people that needed a place to be seen and valued and taken care of."
And was that,
Um,
and it was just a, it was like a, it was probably a free service that they
oh,
provide.
I wouldn't say it was quite free, but if you do the dollars, not even close to now. It was people.
Yeah, and they probably worked for their, to be housed and cared for and fed.
Exactly. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that is extraordinary.
It's
Um,
quite a history, and
it,
I think the
it's a,
spirit is still here.
and the fact that it saw the importance of educating girls that early on. Um, Paul
It,
Hawken wrote this book about the top 100 things that we need to do, that we should do or could do in order to save the earth. And the number one thing was to educate girls.
that's right. I saw that book.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did it.
Just read
Um,
another one called Carbon, which I can't
mhm,
wait to read. But
great.
but I mean, educating girls, that's an incredible history because I didn't see, I went on your website and I didn't see a lot of that history. I was very
Mm.
curious about it.
Can I
Um,
tell you a teeny story on the side? I'm a big
yes,
fan.
please. We have plenty of time.
So when we go into the chapel, which is used, it's a multi-use space now, but there's stained glass. I like to start tours in there, and the stained glass is originally from 1887, and it shows the female characters in the Bible in the stained glass. It's beautiful, and each window is dedicated to Bishop Hopkins' wife or daughters, and that's very uncommon for chapels to have things dedicated to females. And I love to tell people that the initial spirit of the school was to be a place where people didn't have a voice. The females were not being seen or heard and supported, and that's still true today. And the same students that are being supported were the ones looking at a picture of a painting of Hopkins in the front hall. And they said, "Why do we have this big painting of this guy in the front hall when he believed that it's okay to have slaves?" And so we had a reflection. We had a big book study and reflected on why are we doing that? And because of the student drive, we ended up taking the painting down and putting it in a closet and finding a different pen and ink drawing of him and putting it in that space that the chapel is. And the students co-wrote a letter with the staff or um, a statement, basically saying, we're all complex beings, and Bishop Hopkins had a lot of talents and skills, and the school wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his initiative. His son built it. He died in 1865, but because of his desire to have the school is why it happened. But we also disagree with some of his thinking, particularly around slavery. So we want to have this move to the different room, not be front and center, but recognize his strengths, but acknowledge our differences, and all keep working on our stuff together. So I love that.
And that was a student initiative.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
fascinating. It's a beautiful building. I mean, really, to my viewers, you need to go just check out the Rock Point School. And
Mhm.
the chapel is that chapel space. It's not a chapel. You use it for all sorts of things, for performances and stuff, but it's a beautiful, beautiful space.
Mhm.
So magical.
Yeah. Give me a call. I'd love to tour people around. If people can reach out to me, I'd
Absolutely. And they
love
can
to have that
find you
happen.
on the website, which is
Yep.
rockpointschool.org. I suggest everybody to visit that website because it's fabulous. So now, Rock Point School has been recognized for its ability to create this nurturing, comforting, safe, and inspirational space for students who have some neuro and emotional diversity. And it allows students to fit in when often this was not the case, right? So they might have been in a school situation in high school or in middle school where it just wasn't working for them. And this was an opportunity for them to come to a place where it was a different dynamic, where actually they were brought into, and I visited you, so I saw that.
That's
I
right.
saw how interconnected all the adults who work there were with the students, and especially in the cafeteria when we were having lunch and kids got to get up and talk about stuff, and in the creative room and in all. But talk a little bit about that. I mean, how do parents make a decision and about that to say, this isn't really working for my kid. I'm going to look at Rock Point.
It's really hard. I think I might have said earlier that people are in a very tender place when they come into meeting Rock Point. And I think what happens here is that people can sense the seeing the vulnerability, being attention, giving attention to the vulnerability, and knowing that humans are humans, and there's going to be conflicts. There's going to be things that happen with teenagers and with people in general. But what we do here is we embrace that conflict and try and learn from them every step of the way, so that students get to be seen for who they are, and they could pick on each other or do things. But what we do is it's so small, and that we have such a priority of seeing people's dignity and their value, no matter what they do, that we value that and then try and help sort out what's going on here. What can you own? What can someone else own? And we try and work together to address those things, so that when things do happen, families and students know that they're in a place where people care and support, as opposed to we're just going to pretend those things don't happen, or we're not going to look at them. We look for and embrace those opportunities.
Well, putting 30 students, 24/7 in a facility, well, it's like any probably like any prep school.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have your ups and downs, but the folks who are out there, around the country, who are looking for a place for their child who's really struggling, Rock Point is definitely an alternative for them.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people feel that sense of communication, connection, and we don't. We're intentionally small. We don't have a large school because we can't do what we can with these students, with many students.
So do you have, obviously you must have some special needs students, and you must provide special needs services.
That's right. Yep. Any students from Vermont who are on IEPs or 504 plans, or many are supported by their districts to get funding here, and we provide services to help them work through their challenges.
That's incredible. So it is a private school, and I did look at your finances, and it does cost a lot of money for students to attend Rock Point. I mean, there's a price point there. Um,
Yes.
but it also aims to make the school affordable for all accepted students. How does Rock Point do that?
Yeah, we have scholarship for students, and we're doing a concentrated drive right now. We've raised $200,000 recently towards current use scholarship, and we're hoping to do a 5-year plan to increase that and make it more accessible for folks. Because you talked about the cost. Any small business, people know that it's about the staff, and that's we're tuition driven, and sort of have, if we can have other resources, how do we compensate people? And no one's making $1 billion around here, but we need to do healthcare and
They need a
salaries and
fair
benefits.
wage, absolutely, any livable wage.
Absolutely.
You do that, and so bravo to you. So does being next to Burlington High School help? Does that provide some benefits to Rock Point, being close to the high school where there's the playing fields and all the other stuff that's available? Is that a positive thing?
It has in the past, I think, and I hope that it will in the future. 2026 is when high school is going to reopen. But we used to have students that could go over and take a class or participate in the play or whatnot. So we had a very, very friendly give and take. We'd share our fields with them, and so I hope to resume that when the school's
That's
back.
really important. I mean, that's so important. And I was so happy because I'm embarrassed that I had never been out to Rock Point, and I've lived in Vermont for 50 years. And I was embarrassed that I hadn't, maybe I have been out there, but I just didn't remember. And I certainly don't
Yeah.
remember school. So I was just so blown away by the whole entire experience. And I really do encourage my viewers to go check out this extraordinary place. So how many students do you think you have served over the years? And is there any special story of a specific student that you would like to share with my viewers?
Gosh, hundreds and hundreds of students have served over the years. I don't have a total number off the top of my head, but we've served many, many students. Um, I think that there was a student that was here and was here for 2 years back in the 90s when I first arrived, and I worked with her, and she didn't want to come back her senior year. She was with the state at that time, and she just had to push out and go on her own. And then, let's say, 20 years later, get a call and said, my son, who's now 15, is really struggling, and I think Rock Point would be the place for him. And he was in bed, would not get out of bed, and um, she advocated with her school district and made it possible for him to come here. And he came and graduated and is studying geology and is just has a different place in his life. And she shared with me, she says, I think that my time at Rock Point and finding my voice and having the value of myself was about me being prepared to advocate for my kid. Like that's why I had that experience. And there are many, many stories, but that's one that comes to mind.
That is such a great story, CJ. I love it. So I did visit the school a few months ago, and I was so impressed with the location. Um, so talk to us a little bit about the history of the location and how it was populated by our indigenous people back in the day. I mean, that must have been a place of importance for our indigenous community. Talk
You
about.
know, we do. I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know a ton. I do know that the Benaki were here on this land, and that and they were here for a long time. And I don't know the transition between them being here and then how the land was initially bought and owned. Um, I do know that we've had different land acknowledgement statements read, and over time it's like, well, that's gets old after a while. Like, what are we going to do about it? So our next step is trying to figure out how to make sense of that because we're still here and they're still not here.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's
I think
important because
I
that
think
must have been a great place. That must have been a place of settlement for our indigenous folks because it's up high, it's near water, it's,
I think for those reasons, and I think that it's a sacred place, and I think when you walk the trails, you're going to feel it, and I think that they knew that. That's why they were here, and when anyone comes out here, they'll feel it too. There's a nature and spirituality center being created by Rock Point Commons on the property. So Rock Point School is part of the subset of the whole property, and they're trying to tie into this history and the natural world.
great.
So that will be available soon too.
I'm going to want to interview whomever when that's decided because I'm really,
Great.
really curious. And I think it's so important. So I noticed that you have alumni of Rock Point serving on your board.
We have board members and we have a staff member who's from our alums that are on there. And I think
Very
people
cool.
love this place and want to give back.
So now, why have you been able to spend the past 35 years of your life at this one school? I mean, there must be something very special and some secret sauce that
Hmm.
keeps you year after year coming back and serving this population. And also, you've moved, I mean, you've had an iteration of jobs
Right.
throughout this 35 years. But what's that special sauce? Is it the spirituality of the place or the just tell us what that is?
That's a great question. And I think that when spirituality is so different for everybody, I think more for me, and this could be spirituality too, but it's the authenticity and the vulnerability with which people are present with each other and the tenderness that it requires. So it calls on me to draw out tenderness to be with these parents who are in a very, if a student comes here and they're struggling with certain behavior and staff are saying, oh, this is happening, that's happening. It's like, yeah, we've been dealing with that for 2 months. The parents have been dealing with it for 16 years. Let's take a look at that. And always people wrap around and figure it away. But it's that tenderness of looking at things with a point of curiosity and wanting to understand and wanting to figure out what else can be done to help this person rise up.
And acceptance and love. I felt a lot
Definitely.
of love in that building when I
Mhm.
was there, a lot of love.
That's true.
So, what would you say is the greatest gift that you bring to Rock Point School?
I think I bring a stability, I think a calmness, and I think you said love. I think that I'm ruled by love, and I think that I bring in a sense of um, slowing things down and looking at the big picture and wanting to understand. And I thread that through everything I do here.
You're a good man, by the way. I
Thank you,
just
Melinda.
the minute I met you, your aura was you're just a beautiful human being. So they're very lucky to have you. So talk to my viewers about the current situation in education and where this country is heading. I mean, do you have hope or are you disillusioned?
I have hope. I think that we're seeing people speaking up for the vulnerable, and I think that that has to happen. I think that our students, going into AI, and that's only accelerating. The news most recently was about things getting even faster with investments into AI, and so I think really having people who care about learning and being with each other is going to make it work. And I see that people are trying to wrap around how do we can't fight AI in terms of we're not stopping it, So how do we teach our young people to know what it is, how to use it responsibly, but to keep their critical thinking and not become subservient to that, the ease of that, the slippery slope. And I find educators across the board are looking at that to see how to make that happen.
Good. So what's your opinion real quickly now, because we're coming, is about the new education funding bill that the legislature just passed. Do you support it?
I think that it's a complicated thing, and I think that there's a lot of voices that are public and independent schools, and there's some rifts there. I really support whatever gets every student what they need. So I'm kind of dancing around there. But
Yeah,
I
but
just
you're
feel like
about the students. I mean, you're about the
right.
human spirit and the human
So
mind, and that's,
if we,
I honor
we
you.
need, we need to put the money with the youth and make it happen. And I know there's limited resources, but students have to come first.
Right, and we have to give it to those that need it the most. So what are your words of wisdom for your students and all my viewers on the future of our planet? And how should we cope with the mounting pressures that we are facing? What do you tell your students? How do you help them get through the day with all these pressures?
Yeah, I think that take a breath, slow down, try and shut out noises that are just too distracting. And there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so stick together and witness each other and be with each other and we'll figure it out.
I have chills. You so inspire me. Well, CJ, Rock Point School has their 100th birthday coming up in a couple of years. I'm sure you're going to have a huge party and you have your wiffle ball event that you just invited me to that I want to go
Yeah,
to. But a 100-year birthday coming right up, right?
we're very excited about that.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for that. So, CJ, I've so enjoyed getting to know you, and I was deeply appreciative of my visit to Rock Point School when you and Harry Frank invited me a few months ago. I believe that Rock Point is an amazing resource and a wonderful place of hope and inspiration for so many. So, thank you for being on my show. I really appreciate your time, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, Melinda. You're inspirational. I'm so glad we're connected and I look forward to future contact.
I look forward to that walk this fall.
Excellent. We'll
I'll
make
bring,
it happen.
I'll bring the sandwiches. We won't forget this. And to my viewers, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And I want to wish you a beautiful day. Get out there, the sun is shining. Thank you all for showing up. Okay, bye bye.